As this goal went in, Quaresma assured Ronaldo. It would be easy to say Ronaldo had the better career, and Quaresma became one of the many players under Ronaldo's captaincy at Portugal. But trust me when I say this, guys, it could have so easily been different.
Brilliant from Ricardo Quaresma on his return for Portugal!
At the time, this kid with the number 20 on his back was seen not just as the best young dribbler in the country, but some even went as far as labeling him as the best dribbler in the world. This, guys, is the story of a man who even Ronaldo himself knows was better than him. The story of a guy who, despite all the hardships he faced, always kept coming back. Quaresma's journey to football itself is an emotional rollercoaster. He was born in Bairro Casal in Lisbon, one of the most dangerous parts of the country, the place also referred to as the drug market. The son of a Romani father and Angolan mother, Quaresma already knew from the beginning that he'd be up against it all through his life. If there's a story about Quaresma that strikes hard early on, it's the one he told in an interview a few years back. An item went missing, a backpack. Without everyone bothering to check well, who do they turn to and accuse first? The Romani son's kid, the son of the immigrant, Ricardo Quaresma. Even when the backpack showed up and it was clear Quaresma had nothing to do with it, no one bothered to offer Quaresma an apology. Why? Because they still believed he wasn't innocent, even after the proof was up in their faces. From that point on, it became a struggle. Every single day, Quaresma fought hard to be the stereotype. Kids from the drug market were used to alcohol and the products. He stayed clear of it. He never smoked, no alcohol. But even amid all these struggles, Quaresma was still finding it hard to discover a purpose in his young life.
Infelizmente apanhei uma equipa, foi o Clube de Futebol Lisbonenses. Se estivesse no Benfica ou no Sporting ou no Porto, talvez tivesse melhor situação.
See, guys, there's been a common misconception that this man, Alfredo Quaresma, was related to Ricardo. Ricardo later came out to deny this, but the point here is that at the time, it seemed like football was going to be the way out for Quaresma, even if he'd never seen it like that. He was more interested in hockey than football. But it all changed the day Quaresma had to make a sacrifice for his family, which made him love the game. Before I get into that though, just in case you haven't hit that subscribe button to Football Historia yet, just click it down below. See, his brother who was a goalie needed someone to help him with his training sessions. Quaresma wanted to be that guy to his sibling, and from that moment on, he began to enjoy the game. It developed even more. His brother was now in Sporting Lisbon's academy, and even though Ricardo wanted to play somewhere else, his mum made him understand the situation and that she just couldn't be in two places at once. Quaresma knew at that point he had to make a sacrifice, and his next move opened up a career path even he couldn't have imagined. Joining Sporting Lisbon's academy was a mixed bag for Quaresma. On one hand, there was no denying his talent. He scored goals like this and wowed the crowd and the fans with his talent. So much so that by the 2001-2 season, Quaresma was making his debut for the first team under head coach Laszlo Belloni. But we're getting ahead of ourselves now, because all of this only happened after Quaresma had to fight a huge storm just months back, and that was getting the coaches to understand his style. Long before he'd even gone mainstream, the Trivela was already Ricardo Quaresma's signature move. The reason behind this, guys, is that Quaresma was born with slight crooked feet. His parents didn't have the money to take him to a hospital and get it checked out, and Quaresma decided to improvise. While he failed to make use of his weak foot, he made up for it with the Trivelas and Rabonas he was pulling off. Try to picture this in a club development scene. The coaches believed Quaresma was only showing off. Either that, or he was simply too lazy to train his weak foot, and the tension became so heated that one of them even banned Quaresma from training with the team until he quit the Trivelas. Did Quaresma quit? No. A fighter from early on, he continued, and soon the coaches realized there was no point trying to change him. Instead, they could make the most of him, especially after they realized that Quaresma had the potential to lead one of the most exciting attacking trios outside of Europe's top 5 leagues. Jardel, Cristiano Ronaldo, Ricardo Quaresma. The stage was set. Jardel later fell to drug issues off the pitch, and the front three became an exciting young duo. Ricardo Quaresma and Cristiano Ronaldo. And it might sound weird saying this, but the truth is, at the time, Ronaldo was in awe of Quaresma. Roughly translated, Ronaldo was seeing Quaresma as the guy he could look up to, and this was no joke. The duo lasted only 2 seasons together, but they'd managed to make enough attention to attract the best European teams on the continent. Quaresma and Ronaldo, brothers for years, but soon got separated into the spotlight. Looking back now, it's still crazy to think how the only reason Ronaldo made this move, this one to Man United, was only because the club that initially wanted to sign him went for Quaresma instead. Barcelona. Barcelona wanted one of the 2 Portuguese gems, and in the end, after watching Quaresma play, they made their pick. They opted to go with Quaresma. Listen to this commentator go crazy over Quaresma's Rabona. He was bringing a different kind of flair and skill they hadn't seen since the days they lost a former Portuguese star, Luis Figo. But after only a week, what was supposed to be Quaresma's big move ended up turning into a nightmare only a week after. Barcelona appointed Frank Rijkaard as the new head coach, and this immediately spelled danger for Quaresma. Why? Quaresma was signed by Barcelona, by the club. Rijkaard wasn't in charge when they made the deal, and as soon as he came over, he wanted to change Quaresma. As Quaresma states in the interview, he had a conversation with coach Rijkaard about what had happened, but it didn't end well. Rijkaard refused to play him, and things got even worse when a few weeks after Quaresma arrived, a certain Brazilian came onto the scene as well, Ronaldinho. Rijkaard opted to use his new signing, and Quaresma was playing second choice behind the likes of Luis Enrique. Barcelona was a very dark experience for Quaresma. He injured his knee in the final few weeks of this season, and this forced him to miss out on both the 2004 Under-21 Euros and the main event, the 2004 Euros on home turf. Portugal hosted the edition that year, where they almost went all the way, just losing out in the final to Greece, but Quaresma didn't play any part in that. The frustration from missing out on that tournament got to Quaresma. He made it clear he was not going to play for Barcelona again, not as long as Rijkaard was in charge, and in the end, Quaresma became the sacrifice as the club used him to get a player they believed fit their system. Barcelona paid 15 million euros for Deco plus Quaresma. The Portuguese talent was now back in Portugal, this time with a different team, but with the same mission. He had a point to prove, and in the years that followed, Quaresma enjoyed the most beautiful seasons of his club career. In his first season back at the club, he had 5 goals in 32 games. It doesn't sound like much, but by the next season, his numbers had gone up. 37 games played in 2005 and 6, 19 goal contributions. He'd won the Player of the Season award for the second consecutive year since he returned. Quaresma wasn't just back, he was showing the same form that made him become a European hotshot in the first place. But just as his career was on the up, something happened that put all that momentum on hold. He tried to hide it, but it was clear. At that moment, Quaresma had suffered the biggest blow of his career. He was in insane form, but even with that, had just been left out of Portugal's squad for the 2006 World Cup. The fans were devastated. Many of them even called for the team and the federation to pick the squad again, but it never happened. Quaresma, just like he did in 2004, was watching from home as his country repeated history by equaling the highest ever feat at the World Cup after finishing 4th. Quaresma? He still didn't quit. 19 goal contributions the previous season? By the 2006-07 season, he hit 27 goal contributions in 35 games. The best part about this was that Quaresma had gotten his joy back thanks to this man, Jesualdo Ferreira. He believed in Quaresma and his abilities, and even famously said there was no need to change Quaresma or his signature left foot because that was what made him unique. Having a coach believing in your abilities is the best thing that can happen to any footballer, and Quaresma was experiencing that firsthand. By the 2007-08 season, Quaresma had peaked. He still managed the same goal contribution tally from last season, but what was even more impressive about this season was that his goal numbers had gone up. For the first time in his career, he was in double digits in terms of goals, scoring in the Champions League even. And with form like that, the disappointment of 2 years earlier turned into joy. Although Portugal failed to impress at the Euros, Quaresma was called up, and the goal against Italy showed he made his mark too. In the summer of that year, Quaresma was once again ready to launch himself back into the European spotlight, and this time, his next move was to be with a man who he believed would be able to get the best out of him. As you can see, the move came with some fanfare. Quaresma had been dazzling in Portugal, but as soon as he arrived in Italy with Inter, it was a feeling he'd become very familiar with. Another coach who was trying to change him. Mourinho wasn't a fan of Quaresma's Trivelas. The system he used at Inter also didn't allow for players to be as expressive as Quaresma was, and only after 6 months, Quaresma was out. This time he joined Chelsea on loan, but just like some ill-fated curse, the week after he joined, the manager who brought him into the team, Luis Felipe Scolari, was sacked, and Gus Hiddink took over. Coming to Chelsea showed just how much time and circumstances could have on a player's career. By the time Quaresma arrived in England, Cristiano Ronaldo, the kid who had looked up to him earlier, was now the current Ballon d'Or holder at the time. While in Quaresma's case, at the end of the season what he took home was a Bidone d'Oro, the award given to the worst player in the league for the season in Italy. Inter Milan went on to win the treble in 2010, but Quaresma hardly kicked a ball that season, just 13 games played in all competitions, and at the end of the season, Quaresma was ready for a permanent move away from the club. Besiktas was his next destination, and while this one started great, it was yet again the same story. He helped the team win the Turkish Super Cup in his first season, even scoring in the final. But that was as good as it got for Quaresma. In 2011, he had a big fight with his teammate Niha Kaveci that almost ruined his time at the club, but the final straw was when he went head-on with the manager. In the 3-1 defeat to Atletico Madrid, Quaresma got subbed off at halftime by Carlos Carvajal, and he just ripped into the man. Amongst other things, Quaresma claimed the only reason Carvajal was at the club was because Quaresma put him there. Besiktas' response? They terminated his contract. A move to Al Ain followed, but it wasn't anything to write home about. Quaresma soon got released from that contract as well. At the time, he was already 29, and Quaresma knew there was a lot more he could achieve with his career. Portugal's squad for the 2014 World Cup, and despite making the shortlist, when the official list came out, Quaresma didn't make the cut. At this point, he'd hit rock bottom. He was in the stage of his career where he was supposed to be at his prime, and he wasn't even with a club. The next move for Quaresma was always going to make or break, but luckily for him he decided to return to familiar surroundings, and his career resurrection began. Back to Porto, the club where he'd had the best seasons of his career to date. In his first season back at the club, 17 goal contributions in 43 games showed there was still a player in there, and it wasn't just the Porto fans agreeing with this. He was called back to the Portuguese national team for the Euro qualifiers, and even managed the assist for the only goal of the game in their 1-0 win versus Denmark. In the summer though, Quaresma experienced yet again an all too familiar feeling. Coach Julian Lopetegui preferred to play Christian Tello ahead of him, and in the end, Quaresma was off again, this time to rewrite the wrongs he'd written in Turkey. At Besiktas, he made it his mission to win the league with the team, which he did, but his highlight that season came in the summer, where in an incredible twist of fate, Quaresma became the nation's unlikely hero. He was called up to the Portuguese squad for the 2016 Euros and proved decisive on the way. An assist versus Hungary, and in the round of 16, Quaresma got his moment. The winner versus Croatia to send Portugal through to the quarter-finals. They made it all the way to the final, and honestly, I don't think the football gods could have written a better script. Cristiano Ronaldo, the man everyone expected to be Portugal's only chance of winning the final against the odds and the host France, got injured in the first half, and his replacement, the Romani kid, the one who'd fought to change the reputation from the bag-packed days, the one who had all those ups and downs in his career, Ricardo Quaresma. They somehow did it. At the end of extra time, Quaresma, not Ronaldo, was part of the 11 on the field that had combined to make Portugal champions of a major international competition for the first time in the country's history. And in that moment, he was on top of the world. More success followed for Quaresma. He won the Super League with Besiktas and was called up for the 2018 World Cup with Portugal, where he showcased his trademark move on the biggest stage. Never change Ricardo. He did leave Besiktas before playing for Kasimpasa, then Vitória Guimarães, and then calling time on his career in 2022. Despite all that controversy and negativity, Quaresma was in his career a champion. You can't help but wonder, what would have happened to him if he'd let all that negative press get to him, or escalate and ruin his career? False accusations in football, they're no joke. It ruined a former World Cup winner's career and even landed another one in jail. Click the next video to find out the times when false accusations have ruined footballers' careers.